Hey YouTube, it's Coyote Lovely. We're here with our very first installment of How to Sew. This one is how to read and select your pattern. With that in mind, the best place to start is your design. You always want to have an idea of what you're going to do. This design is based loosely on one of the costumes that Princess Tamina wore in the Prince of Persia movies. I'm making it for a LARP where I play a vaguely Middle Easternish sort of character. Now that you've seen the drawing, this is the pattern I've selected, namely this pattern here in the middle, though it will take just a little bit of adjustment to be what I want. For future reference, this is view C, that'll be more important later. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, each company has its own size demarcation, but they do give you some generic size numbers so that you know what you're getting. Now, don't rely on the sizes you wear in the department stores in order to pick your size. Instead, you'll see here on the back there's body measurements. This is a female's pattern, so they're asking for bust, waist, and hip. Go ahead and take your measurements and then select the appropriate size straight down underneath in the column there. That way you know for sure that you're getting the best possible fit out of your pattern, and you know it's going to look great. Now the next thing we want to look at on the back of the pattern is to see what pieces are actually included in your pattern. Not everything that's pictured on the front of the pattern is necessarily going to be on the back of the pattern. Here are a couple of examples. You can see the left two. Obviously some of the pieces are very similar, but in this case the leftmost one has the skirts and the tops, and then the middle one has the coats that are worn over the top of them. So you just want to have a look at the back of the pattern, see what's included, and make sure that you're not buying something that you can't use. Now once you know what size you're making and that the piece you want is included in your pattern, you're going to go ahead and find your view from the front here on the back. In my case that's view C, so I'm all the way here at the bottom. Now this is how much fabric you're going to need to buy. In this case I need 5 yards of a 45-inch width fabric. Now fabric comes in all sorts of widths, anywhere from 38 to 45 to 54 to 60. Some patterns will give you additional widths, like this one here, which gives you 45, 54, and 60, and lets you know how much fabric you're going to need. Now each bolt of fabric is marked with their width, and I'll show you that here in a second, so you don't have to guess. Just remember to buy more fabric if you're getting a narrower fabric. This is the muslin I'm going to be using. It's a 38-inch wide muslin. You can see the mark there on the left-hand side. This also tells you exactly what the fabric is made out of and how to care for the fabric so that you know you won't mess it up or anything like that. I've selected this fabric because I wanted kind of a raw, uncut look, and I thought it'd be really pretty. Now next up we're going to show you what comes inside of the pattern. You can see here that you got your instructions on the right, and then I've got two sets of pattern pieces on the left. We're really just going to start with the instructions for right now, since this is kind of our first video. We'll get into the pattern pieces themselves next video when we do some cutting and other things like that. First things first, this is kind of the front page of your instruction manual, and it gives you the drawings of each of the views again, and what's included, just like the back side of the pattern envelope. And then on the back side of this, we have some pictures of what each of the pieces is going to actually look like. And each piece is accompanied by a number of what view it goes with and kind of where it's intended to go, so you have a basic idea of what's included in your pattern. Next up are some of the general directions, including the marks they're going to use in the pattern pieces, some cutting instructions, some things to do before you start sewing, things like that. Go ahead and read through all of these before you begin. That way you kind of have an idea of what the pattern is going to be telling you to do. Now I want to stop and call out these before cutting instructions. They're basically always going to tell you to iron your pattern pieces and then wash and iron your fabric before you start cutting anything. Now you want to iron everything because wrinkles can sometimes cause some unexpected and not very flattering adjustments in your pattern, and you want to wash your fabric because fabric and trim will always shrink differently from each other, and that can be a little bit funny when you find out that your favorite new thing that you've just sewn is warped after you've worn it only one time. It's worth saying that obviously you don't only need fabric when you're going to sew. But patterns have you covered where that's concerned. Anything that you can buy by the yard, most trims, things like that, will be listed down where your fabric is listed so you know how much to get. But anything bought by the package is generally called a notion. These are things like thread, zippers, hook and eyes, anything like that. You will collect a giant pile of these, so I recommend getting some storage boxes just so you have somewhere to put them. I want to stop and talk for a second about this grain line thing. The grain line runs along the length of the fabric. Now the pattern pieces will tell you how exactly they want you to lay them out on the fabric to ensure that everything hangs properly. And this grain line is the most important thing that you could possibly see. Don't try to outsmart the pattern and twist the pieces to see if you can fit more on a piece of fabric. The fabric will hang funny and sometimes pull funny if you don't cut it in the way that they have told you to cut it. So it's very, very, very important, and I cannot stress enough not to try to outsmart it. So one last but not least, in case anybody jumps ahead and starts sewing, under the sewing directions here, they'll always give you an idea of what your seam allowance is. That basically means where you're going to be sewing your seams. In this case, it's 5/8 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters. That's pretty standard for patterns. On the plate of my machine here, you can see that each vertical line is marked, in this case 2.0, 1.5, or 1.0. I do also have the fractions for the inches up above. They're just kind of hard to get a picture of. So there takes a lot of the guesswork out, and it helps you line up your fabric so you know your seams are always going to be straight. I think that pretty much takes care of installment 1 here. Next time we'll do a little bit of cutting out of the patterns, and I'll answer any questions that you might have. So if I didn't get to something in this video, or if there's something you can think of to ask, go ahead and ask it in the comments below, and I promise to get to it for the next video, or the next video that I shoot if you're coming to this a little bit late. I hope you found this informative, and I hope you'll join us next time. Until next time, YouTube, thank you so much for joining us again, and keep having fun.